Howdy everyone, and welcome back to Southbound I-35, your stop for Texas country and red dirt music news and reviews, where you won't have to worry about those Nashville blues. I'm your host David Ryan, and this week I'll be reviewing Jarrod Johnson's first album, talking a little bit about Spotify, and of course, more shoutouts. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy your cruise down Southbound I-35, the road that always takes you home. Back in September when I met with Jarrod Johnson to do the interview, we talked a little bit before the interview about his usage of digital distribution services such as iTunes, CD Baby, and Spotify, and he mentioned that he had a lot of problems with Spotify and streaming services, especially with the revenue processes. A few weeks later, he posted a picture on Instagram of the past week's revenue he had earned on Spotify, showing that he'd only earned fractions of cents per plays of his songs. This got me curious about the streaming industry, and so I started doing research on it. I started off my research by talking to one of my friends who uses Spotify to stream music a lot. I described Jarrod's problem to him, and his first response was, well, if he doesn't like it, he can always take his music down. We had talked a little bit further, and he eventually found an article on The Verge about Sony's contract with Spotify. It was very long and involved, with words like advance payments and most favored nation clauses, which I won't bore y'all with here, but the relevant part of the article talked about how much artists actually get paid per stream. But it said that figuring out exactly how much each artist is paid is very difficult to do because it depends on the type of contract they have with their label and whether or not Spotify is actually able to keep up with certain contractual obligations. But pretty much usually comes out to fractions of a penny per listen. However, this has less to do with Spotify as a company and more to do with the labyrinthine contracts at the various labels that Spotify has to work under. This makes for an interesting scenario for artists, especially independent ones. Is it worth having one's music on Spotify purely for the exposure even though it means piss-poor money flow? Taylor Swift and several other artists have pulled the library from Spotify, and some have backed the new streaming service Tidal. But Taylor Swift is a big name in the industry who is backed by millions of fans and who gets exposure merely by going out to eat, and Tidal requires users to fork over $10 to $20 a month to use. This raises the question of if it's better for independent artists to let Spotify stream their music for the exposure until they can get a decent fan base revenue, or is that just letting big name labels profit off of the indie artist's hard work? I can see this being a very serious issue, and I honestly have no answers myself. All I can say is, while Spotify might be a great way of getting a taste of a musician's work, please be sure to show appreciation by buying songs or albums on platforms like iTunes or CD Baby where they actually see a profit from sales. It really makes a difference, and you won't have to have internet access to listen to the music that you've purchased. To say that making a living in the music industry is tough is an understatement, and as Jarrod said in his interview, it is something someone has to really want to do to be successful. So, if you find a musician you like, please support them by actually buying their music and not just streaming it. It genuinely helps them out and enables them to make even more great music. If y'all want to read the full article that I talked about, I'll be posting a link in the description, so feel free to check it out. I also found an article on digitalmusicnews.com that features the entire text of the Sony Contract with Spotify, which I'll also link to if y'all want to wade through that. If any of y'all have any thoughts on this subject, I'd love to hear them. Hit me up on Twitter at SBI35 or email me at southboundpodcast@gmail.com. If any good conversations get going, I'll do another follow-up, definitely. But for now, let's check out Jarrod Johnson's music. For those of y'all who haven't checked out my last episode where I interviewed him, Jarrod Johnson is a musician originally from Coon Rapids, Minnesota, who came to Texas by way of meeting Gerald Dodd in Nashville. He currently does mostly acoustic shows and is constantly on the go playing his music wherever and whenever he can. He's got a great voice and a down-to-earth, friendly personality about him that makes him fit right in around here. His first album is self-titled Jarrod Johnson, so let's go and take a listen. His first song, Love Around Here, celebrates close family bonds and how counting the blessings and good times keeps them strong. Despite what others may say about the benefits of close families, this is the only way he wants to be. It's upbeat with bright acoustic guitar, banjo, and just enough fiddle to make it feel just right.
Mom to get me back. There's an all-out soap and water attack. Baby girl, she cries from all the noise. Well, that's the way we love around here. No holding back, no fear. A whole lot of sunshine that'll dry up any tear. What we have is all we need. A real life happy family. I don't know how it's done out there, but that's the way we love around here.
Next up is Weekdays, where Jarrod plays part of an ex-boyfriend who is ashamed of what he did in the relationship and is glad that his ex doesn't see him anytime but on the weekend, where he can put up a confident face. I know I've talked about this before, but it's something that I want to keep pointing out, that songs about shame and owning guilt are pretty unique to Texas country. We have our weekdays and drinking days, and Nashville has their redneck crazies and songs that put all the blame on the woman. Weekdays is a great example of blatant honesty with great music to back it up.
Saturday night when I was smiling and laughing and doing alright. If you had been here Monday, you'd realize that I still have the weekdays when I wake up alone in an empty house that once was home, and I'm reminded of all the mistakes I've made. I wanna give up, 'cause it's so hard to live with a man who would hurt you the way I did. And I'm so glad you can't see me this way. You're jealous of
In She Just Don't Know It Yet, Jarrod takes on the role of the oblivious fool who just can't take a hint, telling someone else interested in his girl how much she loves him. It's a catchy song that is lighthearted as it is humorous.
I wouldn't hurt her so, but before you make your move, you need to know that she's so crazy about me. She just can't live without me. She thinks that I must be heaven sent. She's in love, she just don't know it yet.
Just Where You're Coming From is a sad song about a relationship that is unraveling as a man watches his lover become more and more distant. You can really feel the despair he feels as he comes to the realization of just what exactly is going on. It's very well written and well paced, with the chorus subtly changing meaning each time it's sung. This song is definitely a highlight of the album.
I understand you need your space, but for a while we've been in danger of becoming the best of strangers. So as it dawns on you, it dawns on me, just where you're coming from. You weren't at your mother's, nor at your brother's. Your sister lives down in the Keys. There's no room for humor in all of those rumors.
Empty Pillow might sound familiar, as I chose it for the original shoutout that I featured Jarrod in back in episode 6. I chose it then because I'm a really big fan of Western swing and anyone who can write it, and this song caught my ear instantly when I heard it browsing through his music. What I forgot to mention at the time was that the song also features the vocals of Daryl Dodd, who just happened to be in the studio when Jarrod originally recorded it. The song talks about the longing felt between him and a long-distance lover and shows off his versatility as a songwriter.
The only hand that matters will soon be in mine. There's an empty pillow in Amarillo that I am wanting to fill. I was never more honest when I promised I'd come back, and I will. With tears in her eyes as she waved goodbye, I can see her standing there still. There's an empty pillow in Amarillo that I am wanting to fill.
As Far as Leaving Goes is a driving, lonely song about him getting out of a bad relationship and getting the opportunity to figure out exactly what he wants and what he's made out of. It features some great wordplay, and the music itself captures the emotion of the lyrics perfectly.
As far as leaving goes, and just where I'll wind up, heaven only knows. Some men can deal with anything, I'm not one of those. I only want to find myself as far as leaving goes. I never did see.
Not letting the mood get too somber, Jarrod goes into another silly song, which is a laundry list song about all of the near misses or marriages he's dodged in his life. The clever puns and plays on words of the song make it very catchy, and both this song and She Just Don't Know It Yet are the types of song I'd expect to hear out of someone like Brad Paisley. I'm not really big of a fan of Brad Paisley, but I do like his more humorous songs, and I have to say that these songs of Jarrod's are definitely on par with his.
Destiny that led me back to you. My name is Sid. Other than Sunday morning, I've stood in the clear of anywhere creatures join two people there. And just like
not all relationships end badly, and in Easygoing, Jarrod talks about one that, while too short, the good memories from it far outweigh the parting. It's a good one-stepping song with a bright backup track featuring prominent electric guitar and fiddle line.
Before she ever found me, it's needless to say that I never saw it coming. That with a smile on her face, she'd tell me she had to be going. And I know my heart should be breaking when something so good lasts for such a little while.
Wish I Could is a song about the inability to properly put into words exactly how one feels about their loved one, framed as a lament about wishing he could write her a love song. It's an upbeat, passionate song that is really easy to get stuck in your head.
You belong. Wish I could bottle up the ocean and give it to you so you'd realize that I'm just like that bottle, and the ocean's what I feel for you inside. Girl, it's more than the breath you're taking, making it hard for me to explain it. Don't want you thinking that you're never on my mind. After a year out
In a shout-out to the armed forces, Jarrod sings People Like Me, a celebration of those who gave up their personal lives to fight for freedom overseas, and an acknowledgement that their work isn't always given the appreciation it deserves. It's definitely one of my favorites on the album, with an up-tempo beat and a driving fiddle line.
Sometimes I just wish they'd stop and think that people like me left all that they love behind to go and lay down their lives, so that here in this country they won't live in fear. We shed our blood and we've cried all our tears, so people like them could be free to disagree.
Everyone does things they're not proud of in their lives, and in Closer Than They Appear, Jarrod speaks of trying to build a new life and being haunted by his past, as he tries to put it in his rearview mirror. It's a lonely, soulful song that's another great example of his willingness to show vulnerability.
So I'll just park and lay across the seat and close my eyes, but I can't sleep. And I'm so sick and tired of running. I thought what I needed was the past in my rearview mirror, but I chose to ignore the writing.
To end the album, Jarrod shows off some bluegrass flair with Lost Highway, a song that shows that not all relationships can end like the one in Easygoing, and some can send you off the rails wondering if you'll ever be okay again. I almost chose this song to showcase Jarrod in the original shout-out because I really like bluegrass too, but the Western Swing song won out.
The day I told her that I loved her, and I gave my heart away. If I had only seen the future, I'd not be on this lost highway. Now I know not where I'm going, where I'll be from day to day.
I really enjoyed this album. It has a good range of songs talking about family to various types of relationship struggles and shows off Jarrod's ability to write in vastly different styles. My favorite songs out of all of them would have to be Empty Pillow, As Far As Leaving Goes, and People Like Me. They stayed in my head the most and I found myself singing along with them most often. Overall, Jarrod's music is ear-catching, thought-provoking, and very relatable. If you liked what you heard, you can pick up a copy of this album on iTunes and CD Baby, and at the moment he's restocked a supply of physical albums, so if you catch him live, you can get yourself a hard copy. And speaking of live shows, you can catch him at the Alamo Beer Company Brewery for Rock to Defeat ALS benefit on October 18th in San Antonio, Texas, Jack's in Denton, Texas on October 21st, and the Horny Toads Pub and Grub in Snyder on October 22nd. You can check out more of his music on his Reverb Nation page and follow him on Twitter at Jarrod M. Johnson. He's also about to start working on his second album, so keep an eye out for that. And now let's check out this week's music shoutouts. First off is Southern Underground. Southern Underground is a band from Buchanan Dam, Texas, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get permission to play any of their music, but they have a great southern rock sound that is worth checking out. They don't seem to have any upcoming tour dates at the moment that I can find, but you can check out their music on the Reverb Nation page, which I'll link to, and their Facebook, which I'll also link to. Next up is a duo from the UK. You heard me right, a Red Dirt band from the United Kingdom. The Red Dirt Skinners have a unique bluesy sound which have won awards on the British Blues Awards, and they were also finalists on the British Country Music Awards. This is their song, Ida Bell Blues.
No one knows my name, won't you hide me, Paul, for the red river is my grave, won't you hide me, Paul, for the red river is my grave.
If by chance you're listening to this from the UK, you can catch the Red Dirt Skinners at the Village Hall in Dunkswell on October 16th, the Village Hall in Gittisham on October 17th, and the Beambridge Inn in Wellington October 22nd. If you don't live over there, you can listen to their music on their website, reddirtskinners.com, and follow them on Twitter at reddirtskinners. And finally, we have JR and the Bootleggers, a band from Fort Worth, Texas, that also has a great southern rock sound. This is their song, Texas and Tattoos.
Heaven on earth, Texas born and Texas bred, and that's where I lay my head every night till I take my dying breath. When I die, send me to Austin, so that I can get lost in this Texas heaven.
As y'all can hear, their lead singer Jarrod Robinson has a very distinct voice and his band can play along and harmonize pretty well. They aren't touring right now as they're working in the studio on their upcoming EP, but they've got more great music to check out on the Reverb Nation page, which I'll link to. You can also like them on Facebook and also follow Jarrod Robinson on Twitter at Jarrod Robinson. That's it for this week's episode. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you did, please tell your friends and maybe leave a little note on iTunes or Stitcher, whichever one you might have found me on. I appreciate any feedback I receive and take all comments seriously, so please keep them coming. Once again, thanks for listening to Southbound I-35, the road that always takes you home. Have a great week, y'all. All music featured on this episode of Southbound I-35 was used with permission from the respective artists. If you have any concerns about how I've used your music, would like to submit your own music for me to review, or just say howdy, please email me at southboundpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/SBI35.